And we are live. Yes, we are live, y'all. Thank you for bearing with us while we sorted through some technical issues. So thank you for joining us today. We are CanonWrite Productions, and we have just launched on Kickstarter the Universal FLAWS of Robotics. It's our newest comics anthology, and I'm joined today by some of our contributors. I am Kelsey D. Crawford. I did one of the short stories, did some of the editing for some of the short stories, and I am the current campaign manager. I am joined today by...
Howdy, my name is Tanner Cannonstein. I'm the Canon and CanonWrite who runs the company. They're not this
perfect
Kickstarter as much, and pronouns are he, him. What was the other question?
Oh, just if there was anything else that you wanted to introduce yourself. I forgot to mention I am a they, them.
Well, nope. And next to me is...
I guess that'll be me, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, I am Alex Washburn. Pronouns are he, him. And I am one of the contributors to this anthology. This is my second anthology I'm working on for CanonWrite. The previous one was Where the Gnomes Know. So, yay, robots this time.
Robots. Yes.
Woo.
And we are also joined by...
You're visually first, so you go first.
Or I think it's Sam.
I guess we reordered when after the technical.
We did reorder a little bit because of the tech issues thing, but that's fine. We can go to Sam.
I'm Sam Claggett. He him. This is my first time in the CanonWrite anthology, I guess, except for like one panel I did with my partner Catalina in What the Gnomes Know. So I'm happy to have like a 8-page full color comic in this anthology. Incredible.
Ooh.
Heck yeah. And we are also joined by...
I'm...
Now it would be me first visually. So Eddie, I'm Eddie O'Neill. He, they are he pronouns. Either one's fine. I have done... we did a story in... What the Gnomes Know.
Yep.
Kaj is...
Hello, I'm Kaj GM Lucas. 4 names. We worked together in What the Gnomes Know, and now in this Universal FLAWS of Robotics. So
yeah. Heck yes.
Last time he wrote it, this time I wrote it. We both contribute a bit to the art in both cases.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, and we will get to that when we get to that, because I have lots of questions about how y'all made your comics. But first of all, can we just celebrate the fact that we have currently raised about $1,300 towards our goal? Heck yeah! Amazing. 18 backers so far have gotten us to $1,300. We haven't hit our 9,000 base goal yet. So if you have the means to, check out the campaign, tinyurl.com/UFR comic, or the link is in the description. So, real quick, Rainer, tell us a bit about your short story. What is it called? And I did notice that yours was one of the creepier short stories in the anthology. So what was the point of inspiration for you for that one?
My comic is The Hearthside Angel. You might recognize that from the payment. My concept was, now is currently a very scary time technologically. Things are moving fast, and there's the concept that goes around a lot of enshittification, where when a company takes up more and more market room and then closes things off, makes it so there's no other escape, and then makes services worse. And the thought was, enshittification is an abusive relationship. Was the original idea behind my comic, of someone who depends upon a partner to the extent, and it's good, bases their entire life around this person, and then suddenly, in the same way, they've realized they've lost all other outside forms of support. They're in a place they haven't been, everything closes down, and they don't know what to do, things are not.
That's actually really heckin' cool as far as a concept goes. It's like Crimson Peak, but the house is alive.
No.
Which is amazing. By the way, if the fellow panelists have any questions for our fellow creators, feel free to shout them out and be like, and just ask your questions, ask away. Like, I don't want to be the only one asking questions here. So does anybody have any questions for Rainer and about his short story or his art process?
I mean, are we going to do more later? I have way more things to say about the process and stuff.
Oh yeah, we'll be doing a lot more. We're going to be like.
Yeah, I thought so. Cool.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit more. I want to try to have this a little bit more free form, but also like I do have some questions in mind for y'all.
Sounds good. So let's move on.
Ben in the chat said the Androidville horror. That's great. Also, hello, Meta Bun. Glad to have you hanging out with us in the chat. Sweet, sweet. I'm going to jump around a little bit. I actually wanted to ask Cash and Eddie about their short story. So you both worked on this one. I think, Eddie, you mentioned that both of you did the writing for this one, but I also wanted to ask, what the heck drawing program did you use to make your short story?
I just Clip Studio.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's we mainly made in Clip Studio. How we divided it, I wrote all of it, but basically, like, I drew. Our story takes place basically. It's just physically, it's just two people sitting at a computer screen, interacting with sort of non-physical entities on the screen. So basically, I drew all the real life images, and Kaj did everything that's on the screen images. So Kaj designed all of these little, almost like sprites, like you use in a video game.
Yeah.
You can talk about how you did that.
Yeah, very much. My art style is significantly simple, and I really enjoy doing like icons and glyphs and stuff like that. So, things that look like the logos for computer programs. And I was trying to do things that were still like very simple and still recognizable as like, whatever they were supposed to be. Like one of the programs is something that's based on like navigational, like learning about like navigation, and eventually becomes a deep sea space satellite. So the original icon for that is a like old school compass rose, like on a map.
Yeah, just to give some context to that, for those who haven't read the story yet. The premise is that we have a series of like programs. The title of the story is Gifted Programs. The idea is that these sort of intelligences exist but haven't yet been given a physical form. They're sort of like in school is how we're treating it, sort of, or like in training in some capacity. And so the idea is that they have to figure out what they're going to be when they actually get like uploaded into a machine. So we had to figure out a way to like, we could obviously draw whatever cool thing we'd turn them into, but Kaj also had to figure out like some way to visually represent them as just like a concept, as an icon. And we kind of went with these like little avatars that they have that almost look like, I present the text box almost like a chat log.
Yeah.
No, I haven't read Homestuck before anybody asks.
To be honest, I haven't read it either.
Nothing against it, just we both missed the boat on that one.
Yeah.
No, not an influence. But
yeah, no, totally get it. I also missed the boat. I didn't know anything about it until I watched a Sarah Zed video talking about like the entirety of Homestuck, and then the sequel that they made about some of the legal stuff that happened afterwards.
I also cosplay from the Locked Tomb, another thing that gets people going, oh, you must know.
Thank you, Rainer.
And the only reason I haven't is just because it is in fact very long, and I do in fact have ADHD. And
fair. That is totally fair.
Anyway, to get back on topic, I was just like, I'll head that one off at the pass because I know it's coming.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, but it does have this kind of MS Paint-y look to it. The whole thing does. It's kind of like lo-fi, low-tech.
Yeah, and we also had, and you can see this, or you will be able to see this in our author portraits. There's actually two limited color palettes for both the like in computer and the out of computer. And the in computer is like the old school like green CRT monitor.
Yeah, we're going for like kind of an original Game Boy look.
Yep.
And or like the original, like I recall the old like 1990s Barbie game where she was like in a dream world.
Yeah.
And like it was very, very weird because there was one level that was like, I'm walking through a mall and all the fish are jumping out of the fountain and they're trying to slap me in the face. Like, this wasn't the game. Like, no explanation for any of it. But like, yeah, I do remember playing that game, and the screen was also like only 2 or 3 colors. It was great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And you did a really good job replicating that in your short story.
And you used Fire Alpaca.
Yeah, I actually used a free program called Fire Alpaca because, again, limited art style means you can get away with limited tools. Yeah, it's been a good program for me. So if anybody wants to try getting into digital art and doesn't want to spend money on it, Fire Alpaca is a pretty good way to start. And then once I was done with those icons, we would then save them into whatever image file we ended up using.
PNGs, I think.
PNGs. And then I would send them over to the Clip Studio so that we could actually put them into the comic itself.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the coloring.
Yes, perfect. Speaking of coloring processes and things like that, Alex, I would like to talk with you because I was the editor for your particular short story for this anthology.
Yeah.
And your colors are very, very vibrant.
Yes, they really are.
Yes. Tell us about your short story. What is it called and what is it about?
So the comic I created was called Emerald Soda. It is about these jackal-like robots, and they run on melon soda. That is the robot's fuel in this world. And the 2 main characters, the main character's name is Baco. He has drank all the melon soda, and his sister has injured herself while trying to go hunting for melon soda out in the desert. That's how they get their melon soda. And she has lost her leg, so now Baco has to kind of come of age, I guess, and is like, now he has to go find the fuel, and it doesn't go as smoothly as he hopes, so adventure.
I love this internal logic of like, of course you go out into the desert to find melon soda. Where else would you go shopping for it?
Yes.
That's where it is.
Exactly. Like, you got to go trek into the desert and you got to talk to a little scarab beetle robot and try to convince him to drink the emerald soda.
Just like real life. Just like real
you do. Yeah. That's how you make friends. You share emerald soda.
A lot of this is just because I really love melon soda. It's kind of my favorite drink in Japan. Which, speaking of which, I am actually currently in Japan.
I was about to say, shout out, you are in Japan currently. Thank you for tuning in a whole day in advance.
Yes, I am in the land of the rising sun. It is Tuesday, July 16th, 8 in the morning, right here.
What is time?
I know, right? And yeah, a lot of places here in Japan, they serve melon soda as a drink, and it's one of my favorites. It sparkles like emerald. It's very green. It's so good.
Ooh, we actually have a question from Facebook. If you're okay with answering this, Ben would like to know, whereabouts in Japan?
I am currently in an Airbnb here in Tokyo. I've been traveling like all over Japan, but I have currently settled here in Tokyo. Specifically, Yotsugi.
Ooh, nice. My friend Chloe was actually over in Japan for like a month because she took the place of one of the chaperones who was going with like a Japanese club, and they were going over there for like a month to tour like all the significant cultural hotspots, etc. And she came back and she was like, I have so many stories. And she also managed to get footage of, I don't remember where it is that they have these, but the deer that like chase after you because they want snacks.
Oh yeah, the deer in Nada. Yeah,
Yes,
I've been
that was
there
it.
before, and I've interacted with the deer. Yeah, they're very greedy.
Yeah, that was the impression that I got from some of the footage that Chloe recorded while she was over there.
Yeah, I am visiting family while simultaneously also just checking out a whole bunch of places with my family. So yeah, it's all sorts of things. It's a trip that's been long coming, and yeah, that's why I'm here.
Nice. And last but not least, Sam, let us chat with you about your comic. What is it called? What is it about? How did you draw it?
My comic is called Marquis Night Out, and it's about two supermarket employees whose manager is like this long, thin Roomba thing with a cute cat face that doesn't do anything, and how they're so annoyed by it, they endeavor to like kidnap it from the supermarket and take it on some sort of life learning adventure so that it can like they reference like Short Circuit at the beginning. Like they take it to a punk show because they want it to like learning the true meaning of humanity, and it doesn't work. And,
yeah. Also, yours is also a very colorful comic, if I dare say so myself. Like anytime that you were posting the whips up on Discord, because we have a Discord server that we would all like get together and share our work on. Anytime that you posted your pages, I was like, well, 1, line quality is great. 2, holy crap, those colors.
Oh, thank you. I tried like a new system because I really don't get to do color comics very often because I'm very like when I have to print my own books and I don't have help from the wonderful donors at Kickstarter, I don't like to pay for color printing. So
fair.
This is a chance to flex my my color muscles a little bit. So I wanted to get the lines down and have it be really clear and simple. And then I kind of wanted to do almost like I couldn't go like all the way Richard Corbin, but I wanted to start out with like really bold, like bright colors, like no like predefined palette, and then kind of like suss out like a clear design for every single panel, and it was a lot easier than I thought it would be. So I think it turned out okay.
Yeah. Shout out from Ben. He says, as someone who's seen your story, Sam, I am shocked you don't normally do color because your color work was great.
No, I mean, like I do a lot of color. I just don't usually do color comics. I don't know if I have a workflow that like if I painted, every single panel like I usually do, I don't know if it could take like a year to do. But it was actually really easy. So I hope I get to do more.
Yeah. I also see Metabun made a comment. I loved Short Circuit as a kid. I did too. Which leads into my next question for everybody, which is, what is your favorite story about robots? I'll go ahead and start and say recently I have read all of the Murderbot diaries, and I love them so heckin' much. I really empathize with a Murderbot who's like, oh, please just let me watch my soap operas. I don't want to be caught up in this weird murder mystery shenanigans. Like, relatable. Who hasn't been there, honestly? Yes. Kaj and Eddie, what are some of your favorite robot stories?
I can't. This is going to sound weird, but it's not necessarily a robot story, but it's where I get a lot of my design sensibilities about robots from.
Totally counts.
Which would be the cartoon series Samurai Jack by Gendy Tartakovsky. Most of my art is just that's how I learned. I was copying Samurai Jack. That's how I learned. So
perfect.
I really like the sort of simpler designs that are like you don't have to go into all the little details of everything. You can just make it work with the parts that matter.
There's also some really striking poses that art style can really pull off.
Yeah.
which is really cool. Eddie, how about you?
We don't have time.
I took a sip of my tea. I'm really glad that didn't go up my nose.
I'm sorry.
You're fine. You're fine. Go ahead.
No, I'll rattle off a couple. I can't like put them in any kind of order. Because I'm famously a sucker for a robot story. Like, I'm fascinated by like xenopsychology, like the way the mind of something that is not human works. Mm-hmm. So like, I even have a fondness for like the bad Will Smith iRobot because I'm just a sucker for Sonny. Like he's a sweet boy and I gotta protect him.
That is a good one too.
Yeah, but like, it's also just a really good robot design.
But what are a couple of my favorites? I have read not all, but a lot of the Murderbot books. Those are fantastic. Mm-hmm. Another recent book series I've been reading is Ancillary Justice.
That's a really good one. Yeah,
I don't know how you say it. Raj series by Ann Leckie, which again is deals with a particular subject I'm fascinated by, which is just like anything from the point of view of a hive mind or something with like simultaneous consciousness. Like it's just fascinating.
It took a while for me to adjust to that narrative because it really was like and over here my body was doing this and over here my other body was doing this.
Yeah.
And it took a while to adjust, but eventually once you get the flow of it, it's like, oh, this makes sense though.
It's funny because, and I don't mean to like disagree, but like it's fun. Many books like also like Harrow the Ninth or other things that are like in second person. Or even like what's Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin is in second person, a lot of it. Like I hear a lot of people say that it was hard for them to get into it, like hard for them not, and I'm like something about my brain, I'm like, yeah, right away. Like I am ready to go, I get it, I'm vibing, I'm with it. Like right off the bat. Not robots, but there's a book Leech by Hiron Ennis that also deals with like a main character who is part of a hive mind and like slowly separating from that hive mind and regaining a sense of self, and it's really fascinating. It's one of my favorite books. Like that's been published recent years. So yeah, just anything that's like, oh, what's going on in the mind of something that is like a live intelligence, like definitely a real presence, but also distinctly non-human. Two more off the top of my head. Legion from the Mass Effect games, which like I have a lot of thoughts about Mass Effect, but I really like Legion. I do think that Legion is they, them. Like for the last time Spider-Man, our pronouns are they, them, not because we're non-binary, but because we're two people. Hundreds of people. So I think like Legion's fascinating. I love them. And actually one of my favorite movies is Ex Machina. I actually think like Ava from Ex Machina is a fascinating like psychological examination of like how she uses human expectations and emotions to get what she wants, but like we see by the end is distinct, like that's not a human person at all. Yeah. Not experiencing the reality that we are, and I just find that fascinating. Like I think that movie's all about the last 10 minutes. It's all about the last.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So what were you saying, Sam?
Just saying, like I'm not sure I agree with that. I think she's trying to escape sex slavery. I think it's very human.
Oh, that's fair, but I think like the way she like approaches thought is still not very human.
Well, like lying to the weird nerd guy.
Yeah, but like I think it's just very interesting, like that this is definitely something that is certainly informed by human, but also isn't. Because I agree with you that like that's a very human thing, but I think like the psychology of it is fascinating because it is like something that has sort of the objective outside ability to completely turn off any kind of emotion and thought, but understand it entirely. It's just fascinating. I think it's an interesting film with interesting psychology.
I have not seen it, but now I kind of want to watch
it. How robots think and like how their minds work is going to be one of my favorite robot films. I'll probably think of like 3 more throughout the stream and just go, oh, also this one.
Totally legit.
Yeah, off the top of my head, those are some of the ones I can think of.
Good ones. I have not seen Ex Machina, but based on the discussion, I kind of want to watch it now. Sam, would you like to share what are some of your favorite robot stories?
Gosh, I mean, like I did like Ex Machina. I like ones where like they feel really allegorical, like they're not some kind of like they're not as much of a thought experiment. Like I really liked Prometheus, which is kind of a robot story, because it like one of the point of view characters is like the weird android guy who is like the model of the son of the weird Weyland-Yutani president who they're like bringing to get to the Prometheus planet. But like all of the really inspiring like robot stories are all from when I was a kid. Like I really liked I had like this Star Wars droid game where you would build droids, and you would learn like lessons about like how machines work, and all the NPCs were like strange and had like kind of offbeat like understandings of what their purpose even was. Like there were like those big battery droids that don't do anything, and they're kind of like Flintstone It's a Living about like how they're just like batteries on feet. But I think I really like if I had to like guess where the spark came from, like it'd be like maybe like the 03 Transformers I remember watching a lot, and like there was some there's some really good episodes of like Dexter's Lab, also by like Genndy Tartakovsky.
Yep.
Like I forget, there was like the episode where like the three robots escape, and like they kind of want to be free, but then they kind of come back, and they just like get in the way of everything.
I'm gonna have to rewatch that because I've only ever caught like a handful of Dexter's Lab episodes. That was a strange cartoon. I bless it, but it was a very strange cartoon.
Oh man, if I may, a strange cartoon about robots. I wouldn't say this is like one of my favorite stories, but does anyone remember Whatever Happened to Robot Jones?
Oh yeah,
I've heard this name.
That was very short-lived.
I don't remember much of it, but there's an episode where Robot Jones cannot take off his chassis to go in the shower. Like they're being mean about him not being able to use the shower, and there's some gender stuff happening in there, whether the creators meant to or not. It's a very trans episode.
Oh, okay. I'm curious
to do an allegory, but they did by accident.
No, I think every episode of Robot Jones was an allegory, like where he has like a non-traditional crush, where he's being bullied. I think like that's what makes Robot Jones great, is that it's in this like halcyon 70s school, but it's, you know, every episode is about growing up as a real human person, but you know, they put in Robot Jones being embarrassed about your parents who are like outdated in their ways. It's like any human kid can relate.
Yeah. Apparently, a lot of kids can relate, because Metabun mentioned it's adorable looking, and I've seen some major trans art of Robot Jones.
He's
and
really
Kay
nice.
says, "Oh gosh, I forgot about that show." So shout out to everybody in the chat who watched it.
Sorry, the side.
Yeah. Also, Levithor Arts brought up Star Wars Droid Works.
That's the one from '99. I remember it had like this like holographic packaging, and like I was bad at the games when I was 9 or 7 or whatever, however young I was. So I just like played the first level over again. I didn't know how to get to the level.
Yeah. Oh, might have been a little bit freezing. Okay.
Oh, there we go. You're back.
You froze there for a second, but everything's good now.
Oh, me. No, I just I liked that game, but I didn't know how to play it, so I just built different kind of robots. But you had to play it to unlock the good parts.
Totally fair. Alex, what are some of your favorite robot stories?
My favorite robot stories is probably a side quest from Final Fantasy XIV. it involves a giant robot called the Omega weapon. Final Fantasy fans are probably familiar with the name. It's like a recurring super boss that appears throughout the franchise.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
But in Final Fantasy XIV, it plays a role where it kind of like travels through different dimensions and replays and pits the players against boss fights from past Final Fantasy games because it wants to challenge the players. It wants to find the ultimate like fighters, life forms who can fight. And yeah, it's basically like you humans are like all very interesting. Please like fight these bosses I will make for you so I can collect your data and I can become the ultimate being, the ultimate fighter ever. And eventually like we just keep
Perfect.
Eventually we just keep the player defeats all these different bosses and the Omega weapons all like, wait, how do you keep doing this? I keep creating these perfect unbeatable bosses. How do you keep winning? And then he starts realizing like, oh, we have like the power of like emotion to make decisions, to do things that your computing power cannot do. And I thought that was really cool. Yeah. And in the process, you also meet up with a digitally created little chocobo, little like yellow cartoony bird named
another
Alpha.
Recurring character type in Final Fantasy.
Yeah, and Alpha is adorable. I wish I could link an image to the chat, but I guess not.
It's fine. DuckDuckGo exists, so it's there. Also, we are joined today by Catalina. Hello, Catalina. Please introduce yourself and your pronouns and the short story that you contributed. Oh.
We don't seem to have
We
audio.
don't seem to have audio.
Only me. Only I can hear them.
Oh. Okay. Yes.
My name is Kat. My pronouns are they, them. And I did the short story, I believe it's called The Body Electric. It's about a future where nurses are robots and they're being like exploited and treated badly as it's already going on. But like there's an additional element of like, how are we gonna, like, if this is the future, like, how can we be respectful to, like, non-human entities? I don't know. I guess it's just like a robot version of, like, an issue that is, like, happening right now. But I just thought, like, oh, like, you know, it would be cool to design a robot nurse.
Yeah. I mean, your robot nurse is heckin' adorable. I'm going to say that. And I definitely picked up on the workers' rights vibes in that particular short story, which respect. Also, Angela shouted out in the comments, I listened to the audiobook of The Automatic Detective by A. Lee Martinez. So funny and ridiculous. I'm going to add that to my audiobook to listen to list. Perfect. Rainer, back to the question of what is your favorite robot story?
I will lead into this by telling you 2 facts about my past life with comics.
Ooh, yes, please do.
When I was like 9, I want to say, I picked up a copy of Lost Planet by Tezuka. And not a robot story, but that was a comic that, I think there might be a robot in it. I don't remember. But that comic really was one of the first things that like influenced the power of comics. Then at like 18, I picked up 20th Century Boy, which fucking amazing. That made me like want to level up. That power. So Pluto.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Meets Urasawa. 2 of my favorite creators. Story together. Pluto is one of the best things I have ever read. Of all types, best just pieces of media. Robot Detective. Hell yeah.
Ooh.
It's
It's been on my TBR for a while. I'm going to have to read it now with that pitch.
I've not watched anime yet, but the manga is amazing. It's
Mhm.
so good.
I mean, the art is stunning from what I remember of the cover art for it.
Yeah. It's funny. The Greatest Robot on Earth saga from Astro Boy is not one of my favorite Astro Boy arcs, in all honesty. It's fine. I know it's the most classic one, but it's fine. Fine. But Urasawa makes it my favorite.
Yeah. Sometimes the creator makes all the difference.
I'm also just a big Astro Boy fan, for the record. Like, I just really like Astro Boy.
Nice.
It's really good. But yeah, Pluto has to be my top favorite robot story of all time. Just the question of what is human just played on that. Also, because my comic, I decided to extend the definition of robot to house.
Right.
I'm going to throw out There Will Come Soft Rains, which is one of my favorite short stories of all time.
I was about to say the fact that your short story was like a robot and a house did have that kind of There Will Come Soft Rains vibe to it. It's like There Will Come Soft Rains meets that discussion that you talked about the process of enshittification, but applied to a house.
It was a major influence. And that's just one of my favorite stories ever. Also a huge fan of the poem, but that's not about robots.
Okay, I have to ask, because this is also a robot story of sorts. Does anybody know of the anime Metropolis?
Yes.
I've heard of it.
Okay, thoughts on the anime Metropolis? Yeah.
Is it based on a movie?
Okay.
So here's the thing about Metropolis, the anime. It is adapted from an Osamu Tezuka story. The original story was never finished because at the time the editor was like, we want a more serious comic story. And Tezuka tried, and then he wrote himself into a corner and did not know how to end the story. And then they made an anime adaptation of it like 30 some odd years later in like 2001. And it is, as my roommate so lovingly described it, 17 plots in a trench coat. Because it has all of these story threads that start and stop and start and stop. And it's trying to be a story about like asking questions about what is the nature of humanity in relation to robots. And there's a character who toes that line between robot and human because she's a very lifelike android. And I mean, it's a very pretty movie. It is a very pretty movie. I will give it that. And I have so many questions. Like, I am haunted by this one story decision to this day. If anybody in the chat can try to answer this, please do. Why did the president's chancellor have a candle appear over his head when he was shot? It is never explained. No other character has this happen. I don't know what it means.
Did it blow out right after?
I'm not sure. I just remember the candle appeared, there was a little flame above it, and then the candle very quickly disappeared as soon as it appeared. It was just like, blip, and then it was gone. Well, Ben has a theory. Metropolis was influenced by the German silent film, but only in the sense that Tezuka could take movie posters and make his own story influenced by them.
That's kind of awesome, actually.
Yeah.
The movie's actually bad. I'm just going on vibes.
This looks cool. I will make something.
Remake purely done on vibes.
Perfect. So it was a Tezuka fanfic based on a movie poster.
Heck yeah.
I have heard of worse reasons to write fanfics, so I cannot judge. You know what? Bless him for that, though. That is brilliant. Catalina, how are things going on your end? Everything okay?
YouTube account.
Oh, what about YouTube?
Cat's trying to connect with their YouTube account for some. Is that going to help you produce audio? You're allowed to talk. I'm doing push to talk so that you can speak freely.
Oh, but
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, if you do that, we can hear Kat.
Yeah, unmute yourself and talk.
It's coming through on Sam's microphone whenever Sam pushes down the key button.
Oh dear.
Is it working? You use the settings, but let's switch zones.
We're doing it live, y'all.
I don't want to like fill it up with technical stuff, so I can like connect to YouTube.
Well, we can hear you now, so that's okay. Yeah. So, yes.
Check. Text is push to talk over there.
Oh, okay. Ben looked up something about the Metropolis anime. Per the internet, the president's assistant is Acetylene Lamp, and there's a running gag through his appearances in Osamu Tezuka animation and manga with the back of his head and candles.
Huh.
So it's a running gag?
You've raised more questions than you've answered, Ben.
Exactly. I need to know.
Kelsey, you're going to fall into a rabbit hole at this rate.
I am going to fall into a rabbit hole about this. I am sorry. I'm trying not to derail this live stream. But it is a story about robots, and I felt the need to mention it. I'm just glad that I can bring others into the rabbit hole with me. Oh, hello, Dory Baum. Glad to have you joining us in the chat today. We have a very active chat today. Thank you so much, everybody. Be sure to check out the Universal Flaws of Robotics. It is at tinyurl.com/UFR comic. And there's also a link in the description and on the banner that is going across the bottom. Also, yes, I did dab. I'm not going to apologize for it.
Nor should you.
I just went through chat and just wanted to say that 2009 Astro Boy movie was wild. Sorry, that was just referenced in chat, and that was a...
Yes, it was. Yeah, Metabun brought up, remember the 2009 Astro Boy movie? That traumatized me as a kid, because I think it's the first time I realized kids could die.
That was a wild movie.
Wow. Oh, yeah, this was something that I knew before. Ben brought up, I'm having trouble finding more, but Tezuka cast his stories, having recurring character designs, playing different parts, and being like actors in the stories. This was very much a running motif with Tezuka in his comics, which is fascinating to think about. And it's also one of the reasons why Rock was a main character in Metropolis, because I guess the director Rentaro was like, well, he appeared in all of these comics that Tezuka did. I'm going to put him in the movie. And then it functionally, I don't want to say it made the movie worse, because I feel like that is to everybody's individual taste, but it definitely changed the vibes. Yes. Oh, yeah. Lots of people resonating with the 2009 Astro Boy movie.
Very different, but good.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, Metabun brought up a comment. I love doing that. If I have a character design that doesn't have a story attached to it, I'll just shuffle it around until it lands in a story I want to do. So
I do that.
I was about to ask, is this all y'all's experience? Do you like draw the character first and then figure out a story, or do you go in with the story first and build around that? Let us start with Kaj and Eddie.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, it depends on what I'm doing. Really, like this comic, I had like it was much more about a concept than a character. But I do definitely have like a stable of like a couple of OCs, as the kids say, that I don't necessarily that I repurpose or reshape into like different settings. Even just like characters. Like I've made some of my favorites in Baldur's Gate 3, like just a version of them that's compatible with that setting, you know, like but yeah, so sometimes if I have like an idea or like want to, particularly if I want to like explore world building concept, I might just like grab somebody from my little pile of children and say, we're gonna tell a story about you and to establish some stuff about a setting. And that's then I haven't, a lot of this is all half started projects that have not seen the light of day, but they're mine and I love them. So yeah, I that's kind of where I relate to that. Is I definitely have like a handful of like stock characters I'll put in different. Oh, we lost Rainer. That I use like just or like if I'm have to like fill out some NPCs in a D&D game or something. But yeah, so I definitely relate to the idea.
Yeah. For me, not as much. I also tend to work on a much more limited design palette, but that's more my side of things. Like I will get very into like recurring like iconography, but that's just partly more just what my art style is for. I have this one little doodle that I've been doing since like middle school that just at this point might as well be my coat of arms, but
right, yeah.
Not actually show up in this comic though. So
nice.
Yeah, and then just because I'm seeing some stuff in the chat to clarify, I have done using like the character creator to make new designs, but I also really enjoy recreating existing designs in character creators, like just hammering the like character creator engine into the shape I want it to be. So like, no, we're gonna make my boy, even if he doesn't make sense with this character creator. That's also very fun, I think. Try it sometime if you get someone already.
See how far the character maker will let you go.
Yeah.
Real quick, Rainer, before something happens again, because I don't know what happened, but I'm glad you are with us again. He lives. So, which comes first for you, the characters or the story first?
I accidentally left while trying to type in chat, which did not work, so I'm not going to do that. Because,
okay, fair.
My process actually relates very much to a comic I did recently, where always I do start with a plot first. I make a comic, entire plot, and then a character. However, I'm trying to move away from that for a couple of reasons, and I have one series where that's not what I do.
Okay.
Kind of a funny series. Back in 2019, I want to say. 2017. I made a 24-hour comic about a ghost going to a house party for monsters. And after that, whenever I needed a comic, I just picked one of the monsters that went to that house party. So like my dog beast was just the person whose house the house party was at was a fish monster, and I was like, this fish monster needs a comic. And then another comic, I was just like, there's a vampire in this comic. That vampire has a comic now. There are only two characters from that comic who do not have their own spin-offs yet. And I'm going to get to both of them.
You got rapid onset spin-off disease, my friend.
Yeah.
Hey, we love us some spin-offs in this house.
Yeah. Even the comic I just finished, The Munchies, on RFKANNEN at -art@tumblr.com, is set in that same universe, and I'm just going to throw him into various things now. My little universe of shared stuff.
Nice. Sam, if the tech side on your end is working, which one comes first for you? Character story.
I almost always they're almost like simultaneous. Like I never have just the print script, so I go straight to thumbnails and then straight to ink. So the design of the characters is a byproduct of like what I need their like silhouettes or what I need their dimensions in relationship to the other characters to be. So like I was like, I need them to have recognizable silhouettes in this one. So like that's why Marky has the ears.
Gotcha.
You know, to make the word balloons work, I need Chris to be taller than Sean. So they changed in that regard. So like they emerge at the same rate, but I guess the character designs are a byproduct of the story, or even like the not even that the story does to them, the story that's going to happen to them later.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's interesting that you brought up that you don't usually work with scripts. You just go from thumbnail to inks, and usually that's how I do it. But for short stories, like the ones that are in this anthology, which is on Kickstarter now, link in the doobly-doo, sometimes with the shorter stories, I work with a script just to make sure that like everything that I want fits within the set number of pages that are given. Which I'm going to try to put a pin in that, and I'm going to try to circle back to this question about like the things that you found challenging about this story. But first I want to keep asking about like what comes first, characters or story, which Alex, I don't think we've asked you yet. Which comes first, characters or story?
I guess like usually story, specifically setting for me. I usually like to come up with a world, a place for characters to thrive in, and then I try to insert, once I have come up with a setting that sounds like really cool or interesting to me, then I insert characters to tell stories that are like reflections off of said settings, and that's kind of how I come up with my stories. So in the case of my robot comic, Emerald Soda, I kind of just came up with a setting that kind of had like nice robotic ancient Egyptian vibes to it, and melon soda.
Like you do. Perfect. Yes. Catalina, everything going okay?
We got something there.
Yeah.
Is Cat audible?
No.
Cat is not audible on Cat's screen.
Oh, my computer totally froze.
Just come over here.
Wait, we can hear you like that.
Oh, wait, I heard my voice.
Yeah, we can hear you if you do that.
Okay. I'm definitely a characters first person. I just have a lot in my head, and I think because like my storytelling is very much about like the growth of a character. I really think about like how the character is going to change, and it's like important things that are going to be happening to the character. Although I think this story is a unique situation where I did create a robot specifically for the story, because I had never really done one before. So I was looking at like some robots that I've seen that are in Japan that are designed to help people. I think there's actually some that work in senior centers, like with people with memory loss. And they had this like uncanny kind of permanent smile. And I thought like, ooh, that's like a little bit freaky. Like if you had this robot caretaker who was always smiling. So I went off of that.
There is something about that description that I don't know if the camera picked up on it, but I definitely had a visceral reaction. Yeah, there is something to be said about that uncanny valley of like, oh, this is a robot, this is a human, and then there's a space in between where it's like, oh gosh, which one are you? Yeah.
I think like in this case, it was the fact that the way it moved felt really jarring.
Would you say that was one of the challenges that you faced in adapting your particular comic story?
I think it was an interesting challenge to convey emotion in the character without having the face change.
Yeah, I can see that being a challenge.
Because facial expression is so important in my work. I put a lot of thought into it. So I had a lot of fun thinking like, okay, it's all about the panel background and pure body language, like kind of like drooping or like perking up. Like that's what I have to put all my focus into.
Yeah, yeah. It gotta say that short that you did turned out great as a result, putting more of that focus on the body language and everything. I think it pulled off.
Much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I have to thank Eddie, who was my editor. He really helped me like refine a lot of these like very like kind of disparate ideas about robot socialism. and like kind of keep it on a track and like at certain points like I feel like I was like I knew what I wanted to say but I was struggling and Eddie really helped me with also like understanding my characters a little better, like how would they actually respond.
Heck yeah.
I'm glad I was able to help. If it's okay, I might tangent on to talk about editing a bit from that.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Because I haven't done editing like professionally before. I've done like group projects and stuff, but I like it. And I would say like similar to Catalina's, I think the main thing I edit for on these, we have a really talented group of people who don't really need a lot of a whole lot of editorial work because a lot of it's pretty good to start with. The main thing that I prioritize was just focus and clarity are kind of the main things. Like that like I believe I also edited Sam and Rainer's as well. Like again, both those like I had a tiny bit of edits to Sam's and most of them were like I can't read this.
Don't hand letter people. It's a siren song that you don't need.
Right? Yeah.
But it takes a lot of work, and you are gonna get at least one or two where someone's gonna go, I don't know what that says. We fixed it right up, and it all looks good now. But yeah, just so to speak to the editing process a little bit, I would say at least the stories I was on, I tried to take a relatively hands off and focus mostly on like just like. Again, clarity of like direction and flow on panels, which is something I myself, when I'm doing my own comics, mess up all the time. So I think, like editors are very much do as I say, not as I do. We need to be edited by others. I didn't edit my own story, and Kelsey didn't edit theirs.
Oh no, I've worked with a separate editor for mine. So yeah, honestly, when it comes to working with comic editors, like that's basically their goal, is to help the artists be really clear on what it is that they are making and how they are telling that story. Like that should really be like the objective of the comics editor. And I've worked with other comics editors, and I love the editing team who worked with us on this robots comic, especially because we worked so closely together. It did help that we were on that Discord server and we were able to like share each other's like whips and everything, which makes a huge difference, because I've been part of other comics projects and other anthology projects that did not have that kind of interaction among the artists. Yeah. Real quick, because Sam was brought up when Eddie was talking about like doing some of the editing stuff. So Sam, what was the more challenging part of making your particular short story? You brought up hand lettering. So, were there any other challenges? So
I don't know if you've read any of my comics before. You're probably familiar with like my really long, really like overdrawn wordless comics. So when I have to do like a more concise script, The issue is always like, oh, like what do I have to cut? So I start from the ending that I want, and then I see how like little exposition I can do. And then, usually when I come up with an idea, I have like 4 or 5 little scenes and jokes, and I see like, oh, which ones can I actually put in here? Like I wanted to do like a really weird reference to like the Chicago World's Fair, where they had like the smoking robot, so they make Marky smoke a bunch of cigarettes, and that one got cut because I couldn't find like a place for that, and because I didn't think a lot of people would get the joke.
Although, pretty good joke. Maybe save that for like behind the scenes materials for one of our stretch goals.
Oh,
wink, wink,
absolutely.
nudge, nudge. Yeah. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah. Rainer, what was the more challenging part of your short story?
So I was very adamant that I wanted to work traditionally on this project because it's about robots. I was like, robots means traditional to me because one, that contrast, However,
Okay.
I decided some decisions that were not giving myself an easy time. I was in the middle of doing a year of daily comics when I did this entire comic, which also slowed me down quite a bit. And I had just played with this one pen, and I really liked this pen, so I was like, I'm going to use this pen for this whole comic. That pen is not waterproof or ink.
Oh, no.
Oh.
So I wound up light boxing all of the colors on a separate sheet of paper, which gave a very interesting look. A lot of the colors are slightly off in a way. Like, I actually mostly lined them up, and then I would nudge it a little bit because I actually liked the slightly off-kilter look that was able to provide me. I also had a lot of problem with the colors of the ink. I really wanted this to be a 2-color comic, and I could not find an ink that was the shade of blue I wanted. So I kept mixing 2 shades of blue and a little bit of orange together to get the exact shade of blue I wanted. Because it was like, even these 2 blues together is not right. It needs a little bit of orange to desaturate it a little bit. And then the orange color, for some reason, my scanner made look really different. Like really, really, really different. And I don't know why. However, I actually leaned into it and did a bit of digital editing to make it more red than it did. Because it was actually a fluorescent orange ink, which just did not do. So in the finished comic, it's more of a red, which I felt like added to the threat. Because the orange is kind of the threat of the robotic artificiality in the comic. So making it more red could give more of that sense of threat. But I had a lot of problems with the colors in this comic, just on a technical level.
Yeah, I used to do traditional comics, and I know how that goes. Yep. Alex, what was the hardest challenge for you for this particular short story?
The hardest challenge for me was Catalina brought this up not long ago. It was trying to express emotion, because I love doing facial expressions and like exaggerations. And when it came time to do robots, I was like, okay, I am clearly going to have to draw very, very differently, because I am not drawing bio-organic characters this time.
Right, yeah.
And my solution to this was I then looked to protogens as an inspiration. For any of you who do not know what a protogen is, you may have seen them amongst furry costumes. Yeah, fursuits. They're kind of like robotic. They have light up eyes and faces, and I kind of was inspired by that to draw.
Yeah, they're cute.
Robots. Yeah, I think they're really cute. I think they're really charming. I was just kind of like, I think I found my aesthetic. So I mixed that up with like a nice ancient Egyptian robotic look, and I added in like the moving robot jaws, and that's kind of how I played around with emotion for this comic. I'd say the other challenging thing about the comic was the length. I seen the 12-page length because I tend to think big with my stories. That's
Right,
kind
yeah.
of a recurring habit of mine. So I was like, okay, I need to condense this into 12 pages. So I think that was definitely good for me. A lot of nice storytelling exercises there, and I feel pretty happy with how concise the story became. It took a lot of rethinking the story and what it is and what it could be about, but the main thing it ultimately taught me was like, yeah, just make sure you know what the main character's story arc is, and make sure it's compelling. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. For my part, the hardest part for my short story, because I haven't talked about my short story very much. It's called Roberta. It is about a gardener robot who's in charge of the gardens of a very grand estate. And then war happens. And the mansion becomes a kind of a field hospital. The entire narrative of this particular short story takes space, because it's set in a kind of fantasy setting. It takes place over the span of 200 years. So the challenge for me was figuring out, how do I fit 200 years of narrative into 12 pages? And how do I have the character design reflect the changes in the eras? And I definitely decided that a good chunk of it was going to be done with the character designs. That was going to be the best way to indicate the passage of time, was to have the character designs shift throughout. So like Roberta starts out like really shiny and chromatic and new, and then by the end of it she's just covered in dirt and mud, and she has little chicken feathers like tucked in where her little ear hole is. And like the more that time passes, the more feathers there are within the little ear hole. So it was fun, but it was a challenge to make it work. We are now at 8:15. I've pretty much asked all of my questions. So if anybody has questions for each other, if there's any questions in chat that chat would like to ask us, ask away, and we will address to the best of our ability.
I feel like you've gotten a chance to talk, Mike. Do you have anything you want to discuss?
I'm just trying to think of, this is the first one where I was really doing like major amounts of the art. And I'm trying to think, like, a lot of it was making sure that any of the designs would actually still make them all distinct from each other, but still be something that was like very easily recognizable. Again, trying to do like the icons on a computer without actually replicating any existing computer icons.
Right, yeah.
We have one robot that is a cleaning robot. And it's like, oh wow, there have been a lot of different versions of like the recycle bin or desktop cleanup that are. There's a lot of these. I need to.
So the creative challenge is, how do I indicate a trash robot without using a trash icon?
Yep. The answer: a feather duster.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick, Ben wanted to shout out, we now have new commission offerings on the Kickstarter, dropping from Sam, who is joining us on the stream today, and Kelly Swan. Sam, what kind of commissions are you offering?
So I'm going to do like 5x8 like watercolor illustrations. I hope I did some samples of the style I'm trying to go for, like here. So I wanna be able to use. Come on.
Yeah.
I really like how these like Faber-Castell inks hold up to water. You know, they're super duper fast. It's not focusing automatically, but you can imagine that it's not much different. It's pretty graphic. It's similar here, and I tried to do like a super robot kind of thing.
Ooh.
And so I I wanted to offer to do some of those, you know, for you know, because it doesn't take me like an enormous amount of time to do, but it's a new style that I'm having fun with. And I
Very
think,
cool.
you know, I think the CanonWrite fans could come up with some fun stuff for me to make, and then like keep in pristine condition and mail off to them.
There you go. And also wanted to shout out, because Kelly was unable to join us for the stream today. Kelly is offering 5x7 commissions of pets or a family member or any other robot of your choice. So slightly smaller, but they are, I think, priced appropriately, and the options are on the Kickstarter. So be sure to check that out on our Kickstarter page, link going on the bottom of the screen and in the doobly-doo. Ben also wanted to shout out, we are having our first one-on-one creator interview this Wednesday, so not tomorrow, but the day after tomorrow, as of this recording, at 4 p.m. with Colleen Frakes, the cartoonist behind Self-Assessment, which is one of our other short stories. We have so many short stories in this anthology, y'all. It's almost like you should back it and so you can see all the short stories. All right. So, any final thoughts from y'all before we head out for the evening?
Kat, you never told us your favorite robot stories. You came in too late for that one.
We need to hear Kat's favorite robot stories.
Oh man. I feel like when I entered, someone was talking about Robot Jones.
That was me. Yeah.
There was a very intense discussion about Robot Jones. Yes.
Yeah. I remember about 10 years ago, my friend and I were talking about like characters who are non-binary, and they introduced me to Robot Jones.
Oh, that's right. Robot Jones doesn't want to go to the boys' locker room or the girls' locker room.
Okay, now I have to see.
I think the conclusion to the episode was like, I'm just me.
It was very trans show, as we were saying before.
They're kind of like, in that episode, they're like going between like, oh, should I hang out with the girls or the boys?
Oh.
And I just really love that, like, they kind of found their inner peace by being like, oh, I'm just me. Like, I don't have a gender.
Yeah.
I just exist as me.
Honestly, I get that. As a they, them, I get that.
Yeah, I very much relate to, like, I think you see often like the robots used as like robots used allegorically, or like certainly like working as either non-binary, transgender, or also neurodivergent. And well, I understand why some people don't like those comparisons. I think they're cool. I think it's neat to be like a robot.
Yeah.
I think it's cool and exciting to be a little sci-fi.
Yeah, there's definitely a discussion around neurodivergence and robot representation, and that's a little beyond the scope of this stream, so we will save that for another day.
Of course, but just
stretch goal.
Definitely a thing that you'll see occurring through a lot of the robot stories that I think people have brought up, and like robot stories in general.
Yeah, maybe if we hit 20,000 in funding on the Kickstarter, we can have a discussion about neurodivergence and robot representation.
Yeah, because I think that also, Robot Jones also got into some of that as well, I think.
Right. Also, Rainer, Ben wanted me to bring this up. You have a robot D&D character named Susan.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about Susan?
Susan is a deocidal robot archaeologist who thinks she's better than every single god and wants to make something better than creation.
Okay.
That's how I would describe Susan.
Humble.
She's a 19 author
Yes, that's how I would describe Susan.
That would be my description of Susan. She's a Warforged artificer. Very fun character to play. Honestly, one of my favorites. I've
Nice.
done. And Ben is the
Yeah.
DM of that game. That's why Ben brought him up.
Mhm.
Ben brought her up. Oh, yes,
Yeah, it's it's funny because Roberta, the robot in my story, is actually a Warforged D&D character that I have yet to roll up, but hopefully next D&D campaign that I'm a part of, I could roll her up. We'll see.
I really like Susan.
Alrighty. So we are very quickly approaching the hour 15 mark since we started the stream, and I just want to say thank you everybody for joining us for today's stream. We were hopping today. There was so much going on in the chat, and there were so many people just kind of lurking while we were chatting. We appreciate y'all, and we appreciate you hanging out with us while we were talking about robots and the universal flaws of robotics, which is on Kickstarter now. Link in the description and scrolling along the bottom of the screen. Ben says, great stream, guys. Thank you, Ben. This is what happens when you have me as a host.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kelsey.
Heck yeah.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes,
chat.
thank you, everybody, for joining me. Thank you, Alex and Sam and Kaj and Eddie and Catalina and Rainer. And thank you, everybody in the chat, for joining. And be sure to check out our campaign. We are live until, and I want to get this date right, August 13th. We are on Kickstarter until August 13th. But there are some rewards that are only available for a limited time. So the sooner that you jump on those, the better. Hint, hint, wink, wink. So there you go. That's all for now. Thank you all so much for joining us. You are awesome.
Bye.
Just